So let's talk about where the data comes from that we're looking at to kind of get this assessment. You know, inside of RevThink, not only do we have the RevThink community, but we also work one-on-one with clients. Our one-on-one engagements with clients include called CreateOS, is an operating system to help creative companies run their creative firm in an accurate and clear way using our factors method. And our factors method is heavily weighted on financial input. We look at financial output on a quarter by quarter basis with our clients, and we adjust their splits, which is looking at the costs related to projects and indirect costs related to running their company, and get a sense of like where their money's going, and how do we project expenses to the revenue that's coming in. And that entire process, running with our clients on a regular basis, gives us a sense of where that client is going specifically. But obviously, when we do that for multiple clients across multiple segments around the world, at the scale which we're doing it, we can actually look at some global trends. And that's one of the things we're looking at here. Myself, Jason Fletcher, Joel, Jake, and Emmett, the people on our team that are working one-on-one with clients are recognizing and asking questions. So inside of RevThink, what came to our attention, we'll say after the Q1, was what we've seen over the last couple of years. Not very far, but obviously 2020, when it hit, there was a really bad quarter. If you're looking at financial reports of any production company in Q2 2022, there's a big black mark or big red mark of just a bad time there. But since then, we've really seen a boom. The stay-at-home orders, the pivot within companies, what brands were trying to do, people were using production in a way, working from home. Things seem to allow for new opportunities for production companies to do something new, spend money differently, and make profits differently. There's really been a boom to the economy, the infusion of capital in the United States from the government, and I think other places in the world. Some of the bailout plans have infused large corporations with money. So we've seen a spending spree, a great spending spree for the last, I'm going to call it 2 years. But in Q1 2022, when we started doing our quarterly reports with clients, we started recognizing like, well, maybe the boom is over, but no big deal. You know, we saw some prices increase and we're seeing some demand go down. And we talked about in different weekly briefings, the cost of like production and producers and how those costs have changed. And certain demands of certain clients or in certain markets completely made a change. So we saw margins being squeezed, but it seemed like revenue was still coming in. But more recently, last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, Jason was the one that brought up in one of our meetings, talking about, you know, what do we do as we're seeing clients really start to pivot with a lack of revenue. So what's really happening is we have expenses going up because of inflationary trends that are happening. And traveling the world now, I know it's not just inflation within the United States, I'm talking about inflationary trends in the world, as well as revenue slightly dropping and kind of as we put here this week, the end boom. So that's the setup of what we've seen and why we're asking the question right now, like, what do we do if this boom is over? How do we recognize it and what's the pivot? And I think Joel has just joined us.
Hi, can you hear me or see me, Tim?
I can see you. Look at you. Wow, you're setting. I have like graffiti in my setting and yours is like.
I am in
where are you?
The Moroccan hotel here. So it's like this really, really interesting place. I just literally got off of a plane and walked through the streets carrying my suitcase because the cars can't get in here.
That's awesome.
So, and it could be with
Welcome.
you guys.
I set up everybody, kind of talked about, you know, the trends we've been seeing for the last couple of years, what was the boom, as we talked about, and now really asking the question that we've seen for the last 3 weeks or so, maybe months, to say, hey, there's a different thing happening. It's not just, you know, expenses going up, which we've seen, but also revenue coming down. So the question happens now, Joel, sales, right? The sales solve all problems. Can I just solve this problem with more sales, getting new clients, asking for more money? Let's start with that question first. How do we increase revenue if we needed to?
Well, I'll say this to maybe add fuel to your fire. Sneaking suspicion, like I feel like something's shifting. I'm not really sure what's going on. Like, man, I trust the gut. And I've just been having that same feeling. And it's, it's anecdotal at this point, but there's enough times that I felt myself saying, that person is having a challenge. That person is slower, that thing canceled, that got postponed, whatever, that I'm raising the gentle, right, like alarm signal called, is this actually a slowdown? Now, what would I say if I was an owner now? How would I would of course say, well, my natural instinct is, yes, Tim, sales solve problems. I'm gonna just go jobs and more projects and that will solve things. You and I both know that's not truly the answer, because the answer really is, how can you be any size studio and remain profitable no matter what your revenue is, right? I mean, that's a big idea.
Yeah, here's what Val just said, and this is exactly the term we've heard, Val. So actually, thanks for throwing it out there. Clients are talking about projects being postponed. Really what that means is that there were projects that were greenlit. And I have one client in particular I'm thinking of, that big greenlight project that they believe that they're basically going to start in May. Okay, a little bit of delay. Really now, June 1st, they still haven't seen the money come in. And this was a contract that was signed in February. So they already were playing the game of like February and March. We knew it wasn't going to come in Q1. When's it going to come in? And now it really looks like it's going to launch, if it does launch, in Q3. So yeah, same happened here. Riley's saying the same thing. So it's this postponed word. What that means is that the client's not saying they're not going to do the project. It's just that cash isn't showing up when they expected it.
Yeah. And I'll tell one quick anecdote again from my history, that I remember one time having a season going into a new year and waiting for, how the new year starts, right? January is always kind of weird. And then we start to pick up in February, hopefully March. And I had one year where it didn't pick up until, June, right? We didn't.
Hey, Joel, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you are breaking up a little bit. Why don't you turn your camera off just for a little bit and see if that helps with the internet? Otherwise, like the picture we have of you is actually perfect. I'll just talk to this picture. It's really great. There you go. Yeah, I want to hear the rest of your anecdote.
Rest of my story.
Yeah.
Okay, let me spotlight. Yeah. So the what happened was, I'm going to spotlight both of us. Sorry. When my finance guy came to me and said, "Hey, I don't know what to do," right? Like we're kind of like we burned our line of credit. We spent all of our savings. I was kind of like, well, first of all, I love you, but you're fired. and now I got to dig myself out of this hole. So the lesson I learned was you have to be dynamic, basically in real time. Like you can't let a quarter go by and then say, oh, now I should make defensive moves. Like you have to be pretty on top of it, right? Not necessarily real time, but near real time, right? It's like we teach people, hire slow, fire fast. And that's a brutal, it seems like an uncompassionate thought. But I will just say we do want everybody to be cognizant of what does it look like to read the tea leaves, look at your 12 weeks of runway, your cash flow on your cash board, and just be honest and say, what if this is actually the turn? What if this is the peak was a month ago, and a few months from now, we're all looking back and saying, oh, there it was, damn it. I felt it, but I didn't actually make decisions. Yeah.
So when you talk about that, I like to do cash boards after cash boards and cash boards that I'm looking at from clients and think in my head, like, I know what this trend and I know where to see it first. So for example, a conversation I had this morning, I had a client in house. They have really good pipeline, right? So they're sitting on $1 million worth of projects in house already. They have another $700,000, $800,000 projects looking into forward. So I can see clearly 12 months of green line, which on a cash board means like they're in positive cash, right? Which is really great. However, like what I started to recognize is their long-term accounts receivable is drying up. So one way to think of it is if all the accounts receivable aging, meaning I can see all the AR going up in a 12-month period for this client, I know for certain that we haven't won a new project in a while. So we can be sitting on a lot of cash and have all the money to pay all of our current bills, but first flag, I can set that there's no long-term AR. The other thing I did was I could add up, if I only had like a roll up, and I added up all of my current projects that are active. And then I subtracted the total dollars for all the active projects. What is amounts paid or outstanding AR for what's my ratio? How much of that money is still not paid, and how soon will I get paid that money? I'll start recognizing what my runway is and really how long till I need a new project. And that timeline of how long I need a new project tells me how soon I land a project. You know what my sales cycle is. 4-week sales cycle, and I'm running out of money in 4 weeks, I crash in 4 weeks. Or in most people's cases, 8-week sales cycle, 8 weeks of cash. That's the beginning of the end of your cliff. The cliff, I can see it, and I have to do something. And now imagine being like in Val's position when someone postpones $100,000 or $50,000 or something like that. That cliff comes sooner.
Yeah,
because you're planning on that money coming in.
Is there a number ratio that you like to see when you do that? Right, you said those two numbers of active versus future receivable.
Yeah, so projects that are, money that I can see on the cash board is what is aging, and then what I have in long-term AR. Mm-hmm. I never want more than 80% on my cash board. And what I mean by that is I want AR longer than I can see 12 months out or 10 months, 10 weeks out or 12 weeks out. Yeah.
So when you said I don't want to see 80% of what? I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the listeners that are like, wait, what did you mean by?
Yeah, talking cash flow talk. So thanks for. Yeah. So I'll put it this way. Imagine that what I have in total accounts receivable, currently invoiced to the client or not invoiced, but if I added all that together, and what percentage of that is sitting in the client's hand currently aging, and what part of that I haven't yet invoiced to my client. And I never want more than 80% already invoiced, meaning I want 20% that I owe a future invoice to my clients. So that's the 80-20 rule I'm looking at this. Like, what do I currently have that owe me directly because they haven't invoiced? And what will the clients owe me in the future I haven't yet invoiced them for? I might have just lost you there for a second. There you go. You're back. So let me say this. I think if we just lost Joel, I'll keep on kind of talking with this principle. So I put that out there because what I usually look for, looking at someone's financial, is runway. And when I look at runway, I kind of want to look at the sense of like, how long until I need to have a new project end. And most of us know that we can land, if I needed to win a new project in the next 4 weeks, I could probably bring in a new project in the next 4 weeks. And if that project were to land 4 weeks from now, I would get paid 30 days after that. So that's why 8 weeks is important to look at, because I would have to land a project in 4 weeks and then get paid the first place 4 weeks following. That's 8 weeks. If I'm looking at a cash flow that's 12 weeks, I can see it in the future. Some of you might not be looking at a cash board the way we build it for a production roll-up, but still asking the question, hey, how do I know that my, this resource is drying up or that things are slowing down? And then what should I do about it? I think Joel addressed the first thing, which is, hey, don't always depend on sales to solve the problem. There really is some important decision-making you can project right now, looking forward and saying, hey, with the current projects and my current cash on, how long could I survive with my current burn rate? And if there were some immediate changes, very easily, like usage of freelancers or the usage of staff going to freelance, part-time people, like using the current resources very differently, what kind of impact can I have with my team that way? That's a one of the easy ways of making the adjustment. The other one really is, what is it that I can see in sales and what impact can I have on sales? But we don't always like to go there first without our plan B in place, because our sales team's going to start giving us indications, but they're always not always very clear. Like some of you are witnessing, you can even say you have a project in-house, but it's postponed. A salesperson would have said that job is in-house, no problem. But when it doesn't hit your checking account, when it doesn't hit your cash board, then it's not real. And when you're trying to run a business, you have to know what cash looks like.
Something I was just thinking about.
Joel, you.
Oh yeah,
You're back.
Am I cutting somebody off? I didn't know.
No, you're good.
Something else I was going to say, Tim, that I really like to see is, you know how a lot of times on a cash board we will build a switch on sales, where we will have projected sales, and then we have an on-off switch, so we can turn that on or off and see the impact on over the next 12 weeks. You know what I'm talking about? Or did I lose you? Oh, there you are. Did you lose me? Do I keep dropping out?
Yeah, sorry. Someone just came up to my table. I don't know. Had to say hi to them. I didn't want to do it on camera.
Oh, no worries. Okay, cool. Lydia says I'm fine. Well, I'll just say this. What's cool is on a cash board, of course, you can see all your expenses that are coming over the next 12 weeks. You can see your but you can also have projected revenue, and you can have a switch. So like in Pipedrive, you can have probabilities. So you can say, well, jobs that are early in the stages, right, that are just in that like interested stage, have a 20% chance. And then we have jobs that are awarded that are 100%. And then we have proposed, right, 60%, 80%, whatever. And you can look at a projection in Pipedrive that will tell you, you're expecting, based on the probabilities and based on the close dates, you're expecting this much money this month, this quarter, right, next quarter. And then you can actually plug that into your cash board and have a switch. So you can see, well, if all these things play out as projected, where am I? What if none of them play out? And that's always an interesting question, which I know based on the last 2 years, you would say, oh, well, that's not going to happen. But it is interesting just to ask the question, the decision points, because as you always teach, Tim, like a cash flow teaches you not so much about how much or what, but a matter of when. Like, when are my decision points? Oh, 4 weeks from now, I'm going to clearly have to make a decision. 8 weeks from now, I'm going to have to make a really big decision. Those kinds of things.
So now
there you are.
I'll give the $5,000 piece of advice, right? Because I was talking to a client today, and this is the conversation we're talking about, is how long to have to make a decision and what kind of decision should I make? So an easy example right now would be, if I was sitting on cash right now and I knew I was safe for 8 weeks, today I'd have a slower sales cycle, which allows me to ask for something bigger. So if I'm not desperate, I might be able to say my minimum engagement is $1.
Right.
If I needed money in 3 weeks, all of a sudden my minimum engagement is $20,000, right? And so, and the work it takes to do a $20,000 project is a $50,000 project. I'm not going to make any money. I'm basically burning my future doing it. So what I want people to know is your current opportunity to respond. You should respond right now, start filling up your pipeline with sales as much as possible, but be asking higher ticket or margin projects right now, not feeling desperate. But if you wait even 2 weeks to 3 weeks and that runway gets short, now all of a sudden you're desperate and you kind of get into a hard spiral to get out of for a while. It takes kind of an infusion of a big project to get out of it instead of managing those opportunities yourself.
Yeah, I think I saw Ryan Summers chiming in and saying it's really tempting when into that stage you talk about, Tim, to just kind of, well, now I have to take whatever is coming, right? $20,000 and $30,000 jobs, rather than 3 weeks ago, I could have really focused on that $200,000, and that would have obviously made a much bigger impact. Something I saw here in the questions, Roland was asking about Pipedrive and the cash panel. The cash panel is something we call a cash board. It's actually, we run it in Google Sheets. So if anybody's interested, they should just reach out to me or Tim, and we'll point you to some resources inside the community to help connect you with how to do that and how to build it yourself even. What's your encouragement there, Tim?
Very much. I mean, we do have videos. If you're in RevCommunity, we have videos, and I'll get a hold of Connor, and Connor can post a video right there in the conversation. So everyone have a sense of like how to build a dashboard. You can build a dashboard in 20 minutes. It's pretty manual, but you can kind of run it and do it yourself. Really important to kind of look at. And what the most important thing is well, how long will my current cash last me? And your current cash is the dollars you have in your current checking account and accounts receivable you currently have outstanding. Compare that to your expenses and your burn rate. And that's what I want to know. What's my timeline? Because I need to make certain decisions within that timeline.
Yeah, and I'm thinking there's probably anybody that's running a cash board here, like I see Ed on here. Jeremy, you're also running one. Drop a comment in the chat, like what kind of a difference has that made in your planning? And are you seeing anything out, say 12 weeks? I think I saw some comments from Ed that I missed. So sorry if I'm asking you to repeat, but
yeah,
it's definitely encouragement. I feel like this is like a quarterly conversation we have, Tim, called, oh, here again is another reason to be keeping an eye, right? Keeping your hand on the wheel of looking into the future. When we talk about a cash board being like your high beams or even your radar, it's the thing that like lets you see around the corner a little bit, which is so much better than I'm just seeing the road right in front of me.
Yeah, like the habit we kind of smile when we first talked to an entrepreneur, but it's the one where we asked them, are you running your cash flow at your checking account? And they go, yes. And they're like, how often do you look at it? And Joel, right, every time, daily. You're like, so that's how you run your business, looking at your checking account on a daily basis. If you do that, you need to get a hold of us right now. That is the worst possible way to run your business. You need to book a call with us. We need to sit down. We make sure you're on a cash board, and we need to get you into a routine so that you can manage your business properly.
And it's funny because like as a proper physician, we're going to tell you it's okay, right? Like you're going to show us your rashes and show us those strange bumps on the whatever back of your neck. It's okay though, because I mean, I lived this life and I never really had a decent cash board. So, and then when we were, and sure enough, you were saying, okay, you're the operations guy, you're responsible for finance. Do you have a cash runway? How do you manage it? I look at the checking account, how often daily? We were like, you know what, just like everybody else.
Yeah, right. I mean, you honestly, like, where else would you learn it? Somebody has to teach it to you. It's not something you learn in school. It's not very native to understanding how it works. Because often in QuickBooks, there's the P&L report and the balance sheet report, and that's what we know we're supposed to look at because the CPAs ask us for it. But to really put your plans out in front of you, and the most important thing, as anyone who's walked this through with me, is you're not looking at money, you're looking at time. That's the real decision point on a cash board. How much time do you have to do certain actions? And it's the timing that's most important to all of us.
Yeah, well, you think about the clarity it gives you in terms of to everyone that's an owner here, right? You have this, you're running your business, you're starting to get this sense that you're wondering, what should I be focused on, right? Like I'll be say this out loud, right? I would be wondering, okay, who should I be laying off first if things do go down? And I hate that thought, but then I'm also thinking, but should I focus on sales or should I like go after collections? And it's that feeling of, I don't really know. I don't know where the decision points are, and I don't know what I should focus on now versus in 2 weeks versus 4, 6, 8, whatever weeks out. And I feel like that's the goal we want everybody to start getting out in front of.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we need you to turn on your high beams. We need to be looking at sales as a process and a method, something that you have to maintain as regular as any other process you have. So a weekly basis, what kind of outreach are you doing? And ask the bigger questions too. I know you have Jumpstart coming up, so ask the bigger questions. What's your positioning? How do you stand out? What's important for the second half of 2022 that you should have in your messaging so the client know that you understand the situation they're in and you are the right solution for their problem?
I have a feeling people are also going to be starting to push me to stop postponing the sales keeping masterclass. Maybe in the next few weeks here, people are going to be saying, hey, when is that actually happening? Quit postponing that, because it is very much how can we put in habits and systems and routines so that in as much as it's possible, we can make sales a system that just runs and get out of that feast or famine cycle that we all know, unfortunately, too well.
So to wrap this up, let's give some highlight points too, because I don't want someone to just think that we're blowing a whistle and calling wolf, right? What we're really saying here is we sit in here at a bright point of view. We can see certain trends taking place, and as consultants, we're asking a question about timing is happening, and is the experiencing coming to an end? Are things starting to right?
Right.
And as some people testified today, they're seeing similar behavior. Projects being postponed, step number one. Projects being canceled, projects never even starting. Those are what's going to happen there. So your cash position is very important. I think that we've made that point very well. Understand your cash position. But then lastly, this isn't the end. You have to know that, like, this is just part of the cycle. You're going to be okay. You can make decisions and you will make decisions. And there will be plenty of projects. The question is how are you going to go about running your business, positioning it the right way, and getting out there and doing the work to keep the company moving forward? And that's what we want to put out there, support you, and that. But also, I look that this community exists, that you're all sharing with each other right now in chat, and this will continue in RevCommunity. It's going to be really huge for the next few months to give each other a sense of what's going on, so everyone has a big sense of how are things going and how should they plan. So I love that you can depend on each other as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm really glad people are so willingly chiming in and just sharing little nuggets, right? It's like anecdote, but I'm like, okay, 3 points on a graph, right, makes a trend. So the more that we can share with each other, we can maybe get a sense of this really is a thing, this earth shifting underneath our feet sort of feeling that we're all having. It's a real thing. And then we can also start talking about, hey, what are the decision points and what are you doing about it? What can I do about it? And all learn from each other and make each other stronger. I love it.
Well, Joel, I'm going to say this before, to wrap things up. Welcome to Morocco. Pretty miss you. It was great to spend time with you last week in Serbia.
So fun.
And I do look forward to seeing you again in New York in just a couple of weeks. It's not too long between it. And if people want to visit us or see us in New York, we're available. We'll do some sort of sit down summit, something in physical form so people can say hi to us and keep it going. And we'll keep on traveling the world doing what we do.
Well, I'm super pumped to do like a 3-day Jumpstart Summit, right? With a really small group of owners for that week in New York that we're talking. So if anybody's curious about that, just DM me or reach out to Erich. She, of course, has all the answers. So thank you so much, everyone. Tim, thank you. And I didn't even hear where you are. Are you still in Rome?
I'm still in Rome. I'm in Rome for today, Athens tomorrow. So it's happening.
Well, fantastic. Well, look, everyone, we're here to help spur this movement. I think we call it the revolution of owner-driven creative firms. And Tim, tell them why we exist. We always like to finish with that.
Very simple. We exist so that you thrive in your business, in your life, in your career. So thanks for letting us be part of it. We're so thankful for you, and blessings to you. Again, reach out to us. We're here for you.
That's good. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next Thursday for another briefing. See you in the community.
Bye, Joel.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.